Are you having a feeling in your gut that something underhanded is going on at your job in relation to your job position? Are you having this feeling that something is not quite sitting right with you and you have a feeling that you may be phased out at your job? Are you having that suspicion? So, if you're having that suspicion, you're having those wonderings, you may be correct. Your intuition may be spot on. So, I wanted to talk to you about the four signs that you are able to recognize that you may be phased out at your job and what to do about it. So, if you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, a toxic job survivor, and more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. So, on this channel, I talk about ways to support Black women who are in toxic jobs. So, I wanted to do this video, a short video. I was inspired because I read an article not that long ago about Kim Goodwin at ABC News and her demotion following restructuring. And I wanted to talk about this because I have heard of so many instances of Black women on my channel, my therapy clients, my coaching clients, talking about ways that they were phased out of their position due to restructuring. And that, in fact, happened to me as well. So I wanted to talk to you from the perspective of a Black woman who's had this experience. And I want to share with you these four tips that were originally shared. I saw an Instagram post, which I actually reposted from Dr. Bettina Bunton. So I'm going to go over and just review with you the four tips that she's offering. So I'll put her video in the description section as well. So the four signs that perhaps your position is being phased out. So I'm going to share those with you, and I'll share a little reflections in terms of what my experience was. So on my channel, I've talked at different points about my healing journey from a toxic job. And if you want to see at length about me talking about my toxic job, what I experienced, my healing journey, there are two videos that have been in the description section for you to check out. So one is Stephanie Perry interviewing me and Black women leaving toxic jobs. And the second video is from Glamazini about me leaving a toxic job as well. So I'll put those videos in the description section so you can get the full sense of what I've gone through in terms of my experience in a toxic job. So back to the four signs that you may be, your job might be in the process of trying to phase you out in terms of your position. So number one is if your manager and or team lead asks you to detail what all your job duties are. Now, they already know what your job duties are, but when they start asking you again and again and again, that's a red flag. So that happened to me, and they were repeatedly asking about my job duties. Now, you may be in a position just like I was, where I had specific job duties, but I did up and above. So I shared with them my regular job duties and the up and above things I did, but be mindful of that. So if they're asking you to detail your job duties, that's sign number one, okay? So again, this is from Dr. Bettina Bunton. I want to give her credit for these four tips she's identified, okay? Excuse me. Okay, tip number two is when you notice that your manager and or your colleagues start distancing themselves from you. Okay, so you may have, and you may not even think that these are your friends or anything like that. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that you notice that there is a noticeable difference in terms of how they're interacting with you. And I can absolutely say that when I went through this experience at that previous toxic job, which I resigned from, when I was previously there and they went through this whole thing about they had to cut my position because of restructuring, right? So that's some buzzwords. Be careful of that. So when I went through that at the toxic job, when they demoted me due to the restructuring and all that kind of stuff, I experienced people distancing themselves from me. And again, these were not people that I saw as my close friends or anything like that, but it does feel some kind of way when you previously were interacting with people in a certain way and you notice when they're distancing themselves from you. In some ways, you start feeling like you're a pariah. There's something wrong with you because people will intentionally go out of their way to ignore you, to not acknowledge you, to distance themselves from you, particularly if you may be someone in the job who is vocal about certain things, just as I was. You might notice that they're distancing themselves because they can see what is happening to you in terms of retaliation, okay? So again, number one is that The manager team lead is asking you to detail all of your duties. Number two, you notice that your manager, your coworkers are starting to distance themselves from you. Number three is your intuition. So I made reference to that earlier in the intro of this video. Your intuition, what is your gut saying to you? So I remember hearing Tabitha Brown at the ROI Summit, and she talked about pay attention to the gift beneath the tummy, the intuition, your intuition. Pay attention to how you feel. When you feel that feeling deep in your gut, don't lie to yourself and try to convince yourself, well, maybe I'm just thinking. No, you're more than likely right. When your gut is saying to you, there is something not right here, pay attention to that. And I want to share these tips with you because my hope is that you pay attention to the tips, the signs, and then you start being proactive. Okay. So one of the things that I recognized that in my gut, in my spirit, I knew something was happening. So before I was demoted, I had this feeling in my spirit that something was off. So I noticed there was some weird exchanges with people, but I felt it in my spirit that something was off. And I did something that I caution you not to do. So I did something in the sense of I talked to another colleague, another Black woman, and I said to her, there's something strange going on. I'm getting this sense that something strange is going on with my position. Like, do you know anything, or have you heard anything, or do you notice anything? And I could tell the moment I said something that she knew. I could tell when I brought it up and her response, the nonverbal response she gave me, I could tell she knew, but she told me no, I don't know. I don't know. And she tried to play it off. Pay attention to your gut. So that's why I say to you, and numerous other instances, I say, please be mindful of what information you share with coworkers. Please be mindful. So that was my mistake, lesson learned. And I want to share that with you so that you don't do that. Okay. So tip number 4 is that you, in addition to your intuition, your manager no longer talks to you about opportunities, promotions, any other things in terms of advancement. So you just notice that distancing, and you may have had a good relationship with your manager, your team lead, but you notice like that distancing. Okay. So again, I just want to caution you about these 4 tips to be mindful of. If it seems that your job is trying to phase you out, I have heard too many times where people's jobs are phased out because of restructuring. So my hope, sis, is that you pay attention to these signs, these tips, and that you are proactive. So what to do is when you pay attention to these signs, you're like, okay, I see that. I'll pay attention to that. Start being proactive and start getting your exit plan together. Please do that. So I'm saying this as a Black woman who has had this experience, as a Black woman who is a therapist and a coach to Black women. I have heard of this situation way too many times. So remember what I said and just be mindful. So as I'm signing off, please give this video a thumbs up. Also share this video with at least 2 other Black women because we want our sisters to know too. Please let them know what the tips are too, that their position might be phased out due to some type of restructuring or whatever it might be. Be mindful of that. And if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do so. Lifting Us We Climb Consulting Wellness Services. And I will see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.